Fire crews are calling it Sydney's worst blaze for 30 years. 3 elderly people are known to have died and nearly 20 more have been taken to hospital, some with serious burns, after a fire at a nursing home in the city's west. At its height, up to 90 firemen were at the scene, and police say they are treating the fire as suspicious. Reporter David Spicer is there. So, David, there are these suggestions that this terrible fire was not an accident.
Yes, Ros, that's the concern here of investigators. We've had detectives, homicide detectives and arson squad detectives arrive at the scene for what's going to be a very long and painstaking investigation into this fire. The reason for the suspicion is that the fire officials have confirmed that there were 2 ignition points for this fire. Now, it could mean that it relates to an electrical fault which started in 2 places, or at its worst it could be arson. So that certainly raised the suspicions of fire investigators. Now, regardless of what caused the fire to start, it was a horrific scene this morning, because what we had is a very thick and intense fire in a densely populated nursing home. There were 100 patients here, and they had to be evacuated very quickly. Now, essentially, the fire officials were saying that the scene was extremely difficult for them. The fire officials had to don breathing apparatus, they had to get down on all fours, they had to crawl around the nursing home looking in cupboards, they had to pick up and drag the patients out. So it was an extraordinarily difficult and challenging scene here for fire officials. We had 80 brigades, we had almost 100 police, and we had scores of ambulances on the scene. And earlier this morning, the Fire Commissioner, Mr Mullins, described that scene.
They arrived within 6 minutes and flames were coming out of the roof at one end of the building. They immediately called for backup. The firefighters I spoke to said they could not see their hand in front of their face. The black smoke was down to floor level. It was extremely hot. There were flames across the ceiling, 2 rooms on fire. So you can imagine what it would be like for elderly people, confused, just waking up, and with fire all around them in night clothes. So it was a horrific situation.
David, as Greg Mullins was saying there, this fire all the more tragic because the elderly people involved, some of them just simply couldn't get out of harm's way.
Absolutely. Some of them were amputees, many of them were bed patients. They literally couldn't get up. I mean, and there was thick smoke, and it was very difficult for fire officials to navigate themselves around the nursing home. So imagine what it was like for these elderly patients, some of them aged in their 80s or 90s, and they didn't know what was going on. And of course, then they all had to be evacuated in their beds, in their pyjamas, on the street as their conditions were assessed by ambulance officials. Now, as we know, sadly, there are 3 deaths, and another 8 people, patients, are in a serious condition, and their condition is being monitored very closely. There were, of course, though, some happy stories as relatives came and discovered that their loved ones had survived, and we spoke to one woman who received the news that her mother was okay.
She has some burns to her arm, blisters on her face, but she's talking and she's with it. She knows what's going on, which is Mum. My mum has 9 lives. She's meant to die years and years and years ago, and she keeps fighting. So, but apparently it did start in her wing. So, and because they couldn't tell us where she was, we were quite scared that she was not here anymore.
So, David, what's going to happen to the residents of this home now who are homeless?
Well, there's been a big scramble out here in Sydney's west. The ones who weren't injured were kept at a local church. They were given a look over by ambulance officials. They had joyous reunions with their loved ones, and they've been taken quick smart to other nursing homes. There's been many offers flooding around Sydney to assist them. I saw a director of a nearby nursing home seeing what they could do, and many of them have already been settled in other nursing homes, while those 20 patients, as we spoke of earlier, remain in hospital, and concern remains for quite a number of them. Ros?
David, thank you.